Everyone has felt it at least once, the warmth of being someone's everything. Someone calls only when they are lost. Someone comes back only when they are broken. And you open the door every time because it feels like love. But what if it was never love at all? What if it was just need? This story is about something most of us have never questioned. We were taught that love means sacrifice. We were told that staying is strength. But sometimes, the most important thing a person can learn is the difference between being loved and being used. Gently, quietly, and often by someone who truly believes they love you. Let me tell you about a woman named Mara. Mara lived in a small village between two hills, where the road curved just enough that you could not see what was coming until it was already in front of you. She was not rich, and she was not famous. But everyone in the village knew her name, because everyone needed her. If a neighbor's roof was leaking, Mara brought her husband's old tools without being asked. If someone's child was sick and they had no one to watch the other children, Mara took them in. When old Thomas from the hill lost his wife and sat alone for 3 weeks without eating, it was Mara who came every morning with bread and sat beside him in silence until they found words again. People said Mara had a gift. They said she was born to help. And Mara believed them, because when she helped, she felt something close to peace, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. She had a husband named Hedrick. He was a quiet man with kind eyes and strong hands, a man who could fix almost anything made of wood or stone. But Hedrick could not always find steady work, and when times were hard, he grew distant. He stopped speaking at dinner. He stopped asking how her day was. He would sit by the fire and stare at it, and Mara would bring him tea without being asked, and he would take it without a word. When he finally found work again, he became himself again, warm, grateful, full of small jokes that made her smile. Mara told herself this was love. She told herself that this was what marriage looked like. You hold someone through the dark, and the light comes back. And for years, she accepted this rhythm as natural. Her closest friend was a woman named Sella, who had grown up with her since childhood. Sella had a sharp mind and a loud laugh, and she had always been the one to pull Mara out of her own quiet world. But Sella also had a habit. Whenever her life became complicated, whenever she fought with her husband, or lost money, or felt ashamed of a choice she had made, she came to Mara, not to ask how Mara was doing, not to bring anything. She came to pour, and Mara received it all. After every visit, Sella left lighter, and Mara sat alone, heavier than before. Still, Mara told herself this was friendship. She told herself that a true friend shows up in hard moments, and she was proud to be that person. There was also a young man in the village named Doran. He had no father and a mother who worked far away for most of the year. He was 17, restless, and always in some kind of trouble. Not cruel trouble, but the kind that came from not knowing what to do with his energy. Mara took him under her care. She gave him work in her garden. She listened when he talked about his dreams. She lent him money when he needed it, always telling herself she did not expect it back, but always secretly, hoping he would prove himself worthy of her trust. For 2 years, Doran came to her when he had no one else, and she gave and gave and gave. He called her the closest thing to a mother he had ever known. The words filled her heart so completely that she did not notice she had stopped sleeping well. She did not notice that her own small garden, the one she had planted for herself, just for herself, had gone dry and untended. One autumn, everything shifted. Mara fell ill. It was nothing very serious, but serious enough that she needed to stay in bed for 2 weeks and could not help anyone. She sent word to her neighbors that she was unwell. She waited. Edric took care of the house, but he was awkward about it, and after 5 days, he began mentioning how the work was piling up and how he was doing his best, but it was a lot. He was not unkind. He just made it clear, in quiet ways, that being the one who gives was supposed to be her role, not his. Sela came once, on the third day. She brought a small cake and spent most of the visit talking about a new problem with her husband. Before she left, she squeezed Mara's hand and said, "You'll be better soon? You always are." And then she was gone. Doran did not come at all. Mara lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling, and something inside her became very still. Not sad, exactly. Not angry. Just still, the way a lake becomes still right before the surface freezes. She thought about the roof she had helped fix for the neighbor, and how that neighbor had never once asked how she was feeling. She thought about old Thomas, who had eaten her bread every morning for a month, and who, when he recovered, had built a fence between their houses and barely nodded when they passed. She thought about Sela and all the hours she had listened, and how Sela would grow quiet and uncomfortable the one or two times Mara had started to speak about her own pain. She thought about Doran's words, the closest thing to a mother. Beautiful words. But a child who loves his mother comes to her when she is sick. And she understood something, not with bitterness, but with the quiet, aching clarity of a woman who had finally stopped looking away. She had not been loved. She had been useful. These are not the same thing. Being loved means someone sees you when you have nothing to give. Being useful means someone sees what you can do for them. You can be deeply useful to someone who does not think about you once when you are no longer useful. And the painful truth is, if you fill every empty space in every person's life, they will never have to find another way. They will never have to grow. And you will grow smaller, quietly, without anyone noticing, including yourself. Mara got up from her bed on the 14th day. She walked to her small garden. She pulled out the dry weeds, turned the soil with her own hands, and planted new seeds. Not for anyone else, but for herself. She decided something simple and enormous that morning. She would still help people, but she would help differently. She would help when it made her feel like herself, not when it made her feel afraid to say no. She would help from a full place, not an empty one. The next time Sela arrived at her door, with a storm behind her eyes and a story already forming on her lips, Mara poured 2 cups of tea and sat down. But before Sela could start, Mara spoke first. She said, "I want to tell you something that's been sitting with me." And she did, quietly, honestly, without drama. Sela was surprised. She did not know what to do at first. But she listened, and something small and real passed between them that had never passed between them before. It was the beginning of an actual friendship, one where both women were present, not just one. Edric noticed the change in Mara too. She stopped filling his silences automatically. She stopped disappearing into helpfulness before he could think to ask. At first, it made him uncomfortable. Then it made him curious. He began, slowly and a little awkwardly, to ask her things. "How are you feeling today? What do you want for supper? What are you thinking about?" Small questions, but real ones. As for Doran, he came back, months later, looking a little older and a little quieter. He stood at her door without a problem in his hands for the first time. He said he had thought about her when she was sick, and he had been ashamed that he had not come. Mara invited him in. She did not say it was all fine, and it did not matter. She said, "I noticed, and I want you to know that the people who care about you should show up, and so should you. You are old enough for that now." He nodded. He understood. And that conversation gave him something that her silent giving never could. It gave him a standard to rise to. Mara did not become a cold woman. She did not close her door. But she learned to open it differently, with choice, not obligation, with love, not fear. And something extraordinary happened over the following months. The people who truly cared for her became more visible. They had always been there. A few quiet ones who never asked for much, but she had been too busy pouring herself into the loudest needs to notice them. Now she saw them. Now she had something left to give to them, and to herself. If you have always been the one who gives, ask yourself one honest question. When you had nothing to give, who stayed? The people who love you are not the ones who need you most. They are the ones who want you, not just what you do. Being needed can feel like love, especially if no one ever showed you what real love looks like. It feels warm. It feels important. But need is hungry, and it does not ask how you are. It only asks what you have. You are not a service. You are a person. And the moment you start treating yourself that way, you will see clearly, without anger, who is ever really there. Give, be kind. Open your door, but do it from a place that is yours. Do it because you choose to, not because you are afraid of what happens if you don't. That is not coldness. That is the beginning of real love for others, and most importantly, for yourself. Mara planted new seeds that morning, and her garden grew back stronger than before. If something in this story felt familiar, if you recognized yourself somewhere in it, then this channel is for you. Every story here is a seed, and if you press like, leave a comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it, or subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, you are helping this garden grow. You are helping someone else find the words they didn't have. That is not a small thing. That is exactly what real love looks like. We'll see you in the next story.